Do you think that Ancestry DNA is the ticket to solve all of your genealogy brick walls? Today, I'm going to talk to you about whether Ancestry Throughline helped me with my own brick wall case and whether it can help yours. Many people ask if it's possible to break through a genealogy brick wall using DNA. And the answer is maybe. People also then ask if they've tested on Ancestry. Can Ancestry DNA Throughlines break through a genealogy brick wall? And the answer again is maybe. When we're talking about Ancestry DNA Throughlines, it's essential that we recognize that they are not genetic trees. So if you want to prove or disprove your family tree or break through genealogical brick walls, you have to ensure that you yourself have built a quality family tree based on documentary evidence. Now, even then, as my colleague Larry Jones of DNA Family Tree knows full well, you can have a genealogically accurate family tree and it still could be genetically inaccurate. However, I'm going to walk you through the process of how to explore your DNA with Throughlines to try to give more evidence to your genealogy brick walls. But be advised, your ability to break through a genealogy brick wall depends on where that brick wall takes place. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Now, I'm going to advise you to do the same thing I would tell you when you're doing genealogical research with your genetic tree research. Start with yourself and work your way back up your tree. For the purpose of this video, we're going to start at my great-grandmother, Eveline Townley Peak. When I look at the 4 matches for Eveline Townley Peak, I know who these people are. One of them is my brother, and 2 of them are my father's cousins, first cousins, and I asked all 3 of them to take the test. Both of my dad's cousins had siblings that died. My dad did not have any other siblings, and that's all the survivors of Eveline Townley Peak. So I've tested everybody that can be tested. So we're going to go back 1 generation, and now we're researching Eveline Townley. And I still have the same 4 relatives. Now, Eveline had several children, William, Harry, and Edith. And they're not showing up on my family tree in my Ancestry Throughlines. Why is that? Now, if you've seen my previous video, which I'll link to in the description and in the show notes, you'll know that a couple of things have happened. Either there are no living descendants of William, Harry, and Edith to take a test. There are no descendants of William, Harry, and Edith who have taken a test that are alive. They haven't taken a test with Ancestry DNA, or they have taken a test with Ancestry DNA and haven't built their family tree or made their family tree that they did build public or private but shareable. So have I run into a problem, the fact that Eveline's children aren't there at this next generation? Not necessarily. I'm either going to have to invite descendants of Eveline Townley, not Eveline Townley Peak. I'm going to have to invite the descendants of Eveline Townley to take a DNA test, or wait for them to do it on their own. So going back 1 more generation, I am now at Richard Townley. Now, Richard had 4 children, Eveline, my great-grandmother, William, John, and Henry Townley. So far, William's descendants have not tested, but I do find descendants of John and Henry for a total of 4 genetic matches whose family trees align with mine. Now, if I had a chromosome browser on Ancestry, I would be able to definitively say that these are my genetic and genealogical relatives. On paper, everything looks good. Genetically, I can't say. But that's another topic for another video. Now we're going to go back to John Townley. John Townley, if you'll remember, was born in New Jersey and he migrated to Cincinnati. And then he had Richard, who we just talked about, Eliza, Asa, Joanna, and Mary Jane. So far, I match with only Mary Jane's and line with just one match. Once we get to our third great grandfather, we're dealing with shared DNA of about 3%, according to this chart. And the number of cousins and descendants of John that I could possibly share DNA with is really, really, really small. So even if the descendants of Eliza, Asa, Joanna, and Mary Jane have taken a DNA test and met all those parameters for us to possibly have ancestry through line, we might not share DNA, and that's why we're not showing up on the ancestry through lines. So my genealogy brick wall happens at my fourth great grandfather. So now we're going to add my brick wall ancestor, Effingham Townley, and the children that I have found so far to my ancestry member tree. Just so you know, according to the shared DNA chart, I'm sharing about 1% of Effingham's DNA with him and other descendants. So the likelihood of me having genetic matches to Effingham are pretty small. But there is a chance, and we'll go ahead and explore this through line. So when I look at the through line to Effingham Townley, I know that he has Richard, William, Abby, John, Jane, and Caleb as his children. And I believe that John is my fourth great grandfather. Of Effingham's children, Richard, John, and Caleb have established lines of descendants. So far, I have only one DNA match that has a through line that takes me through Effingham Townley. Now, would you say that I have definitively proven that Effingham and John are father and son? Not necessarily, but it is a piece of evidence to add to all the other indirect evidence that I have gathered in previous videos. Now, one of the things that I am fortunate enough to be able to do is that I managed a tree of my brother and those two cousins of my dad. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go and explore my brother's tree. And in my brother's tree, he matches a descendant of John's daughter, Joanna, that I didn't match. Remember that I said when we get to the third great grandparents, we don't share DNA with the majority of our cousins. And so it's entirely possible that my brother got the Joanna DNA and I got the Mary Jane shared DNA. So when we get to the Effingham generation, my brother doesn't have any DNA matches from any of the other descendants of Effingham other than the ones through John. Now I look at the cousin of my father, the first one. She matches the same descendant who was the daughter of John. So Joanna's descendant that matched my brother also matches Caroline. So I just didn't luck out and have that part of DNA. But she, like my brother, this cousin, like my brother, doesn't have that Effingham DNA or a DNA match through Effingham that she shares an ancestry through line tree with. Now the other cousin, she lucks out completely. She doesn't have any matches that are descendants of John, and then she doesn't have any DNA matches that are descendant of Effingham. This just goes to show that not all of the descendants of a third great grandfather and a fourth great grandfather are all going to be sharing the same DNA with every descendant of that line. Now, how can I increase the chances of me being able to validate this genetic connection between John Townley as the son of Effingham Townley? Well, a couple of things I'm going to need to do. I'm probably going to need to do a lot more descendancy research, particularly of the daughters of Effingham Townley, as well as the son, William. The reason is William was deceased at the time of Effingham's will and probate, so did he leave any heirs? And if he did, then I need to go and research them. The next thing I need to do is make sure that I have built a tree for Effingham and all possible descendants. Once I know who are the living ones, I can invite them to take a DNA test with Ancestry and help them build their family tree to see if the theories work. But even if I did test all of the living descendants of Effingham Townley, I still could run into the problem that we're not all going to have Effingham's DNA in order to genetically match with. So in the end, can Ancestry DNA help you break through your genealogical brick walls? Depends on where the brick wall takes place. The closer in generation the brick wall is to you, the more chances of success you may have. The further removed you are from the common ancestor, you're going to need a lot more people to take tests, build their trees, and make their trees public or private but searchable. In the end, I do have a few more clues to add to my brick wall case study to give me a little more confidence that I headed in the right direction. Let me know your experiences with Ancestry DNA and what generation it has helped you crack through a brick wall. If you want more education on DNA, then be sure you check out this playlist right here. And if you're ready for our latest video, check out this one right here.